Around 40,000 years ago, deep inside the limestone caves of Ice Age Europe, something impossible was piling up. Not tools, not fire pits, not art, bones, thousands of them. At first glance, they looked ordinary. Large, yes, but recognizable. Bare skulls, bare femurs, bare ribs. But the deeper archaeologists went, the stranger the picture became. Entire caves weren't just sheltering bones, they were filled with them. Stacked, layered, pressed into the sediment, like the cave itself had swallowed an animal whole. Some chambers contained the remains of hundreds of individuals, all from the same species, all adults, many perfectly preserved. No bite marks, no signs of slaughter, just bears, dead bears. And not just any bears, these were cave bears. And nothing about them was normal. For decades, researchers assumed the explanation was simple. Bears hibernate. Sometimes they die in their sleep. Caves make sense, case closed. But then the measurements started coming in. These weren't brown bears, they weren't polar bears, they weren't even close. The average adult male cave bear weighed over 1,000 kilograms. That's more than 2,200 pounds. Some individuals may have reached 1,500 kilograms. Standing upright, they would have towered over modern grizzlies. Their skulls were broader, their limb bones thicker, their shoulder joints reinforced like load-bearing pillars. This wasn't a bear scaled up slightly. This was a bear pushed to the absolute limit of mammalian size. And that raised a disturbing question. Why would an animal this massive choose caves as its primary habitat? Let's put the size problem into perspective. The largest modern land carnivores, the polar bear and Kodiak bear, rarely exceed 700 kilograms. They live in environments rich in calories. They spend most of their lives moving, hunting, feeding. Now, imagine an animal nearly twice that mass. An animal that, by all anatomical indicators, could not hunt efficiently. Its teeth weren't optimized for slicing flesh. Its jaws weren't built for bone crushing like hyenas. Its limbs favored stability over speed. And yet, this animal dominated Europe for hundreds of thousands of years. From Spain to the Urals, from lowland forests to alpine regions. So, how did something so large survive? And more importantly, why did it vanish so completely? Cave bears didn't leave behind stories. They left behind anatomy. And anatomy doesn't lie. When paleontologists reconstructed cave bear skeletons, one feature stood out immediately: their teeth, specifically their molars. They were enormous, flat, ridged, perfect for grinding. Plant matter, roots, tubers, nuts. This was not the dentition of a hypercarnivore. Despite their terrifying size, cave bears were primarily herbivorous. And that changes everything. An herbivore at this scale requires staggering amounts of energy, tens of thousands of calories per day, seasonal fat accumulation, long periods of inactivity to conserve resources, which brings us back to the caves. Caves weren't just shelter. They were survival infrastructure. Inside caves, temperatures stayed stable year-round. Humidity remained constant. Predators couldn't reach them. Weather couldn't drain energy reserves. For a creature this large, energy efficiency was everything. Cave bears spent months hibernating, sometimes half the year, their massive fat reserves sustaining them through winters that could last longer than expected. And over tens of thousands of years, this strategy worked, until it didn't. Around 50,000 years ago, Europe began to change. Not dramatically and not suddenly, but steadily. Ice sheets advanced, forests thinned, open steppe expanded, plant diversity declined. Nut-bearing trees retreated south. Root systems froze deeper underground. For smaller herbivores, this was manageable. For cave bears, it was catastrophic. They were specialists, built for abundance, built for predictability. And predictability was disappearing. At the same time, another presence entered the caves. Humans. Not hunters at first, not conquerors, just occupants. Early Homo sapiens and Neanderthals needed shelter too, and caves were perfect. This created a quiet competition, not for food, for space. Cave bears returned to hibernation sites that had worked for generations, only to find them occupied. Fires, smoke, tools, noise. Even small disturbances can wake a hibernating bear. And waking early is a death sentence. An animal that wakes too soon burns fat reserves it cannot replace. One winter like that is survivable. Several are not. Here's the crucial point. Cave bears were not wiped out by a single cause. They weren't overhunted. They weren't exterminated. They weren't suddenly outcompeted by a superior predator. They died because their margin for error was too small. Slightly colder winters, slightly less vegetation, slightly fewer safe caves. Each factor alone was manageable. Together, they were fatal. By 24,000 years ago, cave bears were gone. Not gradually fading, not shrinking into smaller forms, just gone. The cave bear is unsettling because it breaks a comforting narrative. It wasn't stupid, it wasn't weak, it wasn't poorly adapted, it was too specialized for a world that stopped existing. And that's the uncomfortable lesson. Evolution doesn't reward strength. It doesn't reward size. It doesn't reward dominance. It rewards flexibility. The cave bear bet everything on stability. And the planet doesn't offer that for long. Asking for support always feels awkward, so I'll keep this brief. These films take an enormous amount of research, editing, and time. If you believe stories like this matter, stories that remind us how fragile even the most powerful life forms are, consider supporting the channel. Memberships help me push these videos further. Better visuals, deeper research, bigger stories. Thank you for being here. And until next time, I think you'll enjoy this video right here.